Okay, students, very good evening to all. Today we are going to start with the fourth unit, which is network analysis and project management. Actually, this is your unit number 4, not 5. So let us start with the network analysis, and before we go for the problems and techniques, we first of all let us understand what is this project management. The very first thing is project management. We have to understand through all the basic concepts that how project is initiated, how it is being carrying out, and how it is being completed. So the entire task from starting the project and for completing the project, the entire task, whatever included in, and their smooth performance will be included in that project management. So carefully let us try to understand this concept. A project involves large number of interrelated activities. So I was terming this particular activities as the task included in the project, right from starting of the project till the end of the project, that must be completed on or before a specified time limit in a specified sequence with specified quality and minimum cost of using all resources such as workers, money, material, facilities, and or space. Alright, let me give you one example for this project management. Whenever in a certain college, suppose I'm teaching a certain course, and few students, say 30 students are involving in that particular teaching learning process, and I'm teaching one particular subject to these students, say mathematical optimization or operation research. So whatever things are included in that entire process of teachings are classroom, as a worker, say I am as a teacher, right? Then classroom, then we are having timetable, correct? Suppose we are having labs also, students, right? And infrastructure, we have included that in terms of classroom, and the fees of the teacher, for suppose, or the payment of the teachers. Then to optimize all of these resources is the important part of the project management. What is your project now? We whatever example I'm going to give you, through that you should understand it's a project of completion of syllabus of that subject of operation research or mathematical optimization, optimizing the entire cost or entire resources which we are having. So including the fees of the teacher, man hours of the teachers, classroom, timetable and labs, and number of students or number of space available, all that comprises of a project. So starting of the project means starting of the teaching or commencement of the classes, then entire term or semester which is being carried out with all of these resources available, and conclusion of the teaching means end of your syllabus. This entire part is nothing but our project, and its management we have to learn through the proper sequence, and what we are trying to achieve through that project management is all of the activities which must be completed on or before a specified time limit. So the entire project is being optimized for the time duration. Operation research must be completed within a specified time duration to conduct the exam and hence to give you the grades. So that's nothing but the project management. Therefore, you can understand it is necessary to prepare a plan for the scheduling and controlling these activities. Besides that, it will not be very much smoothly possible to conduct any kind of project. Even in teaching, so in a semester, if I'm teaching you this course of operation research, definitely the scheduling and controlling the all activities included in are essential to handle, essential to plan, essential to execute that activities properly within the time. Project management is a specific way of planning, implementing, monitoring, and controlling the various aspects of a project such as time, money, material, manpower, and other resources. This approach helps in identifying bottleneck and even discovering the alternate work plan for the project. As if I have given you many times example, we are having our lecture on Thursday, but many of the times, suppose due to power cut like today, I suspended my lecture, but this is a bottleneck situation that I have to manage these particular 2 hours which are discarded in terms of or suspended in terms of the manners. I have to cope up that 2 hours by taking either extra session on certain another day or by recording a video and giving it to you. So discovery of certain another plan is also very much important in that particular project. And in many projects, certain bottleneck situations may arise at any point of time. So we should understand the importance of all the situations which are included in, all the tasks which are included in, all the activities which are included in while handling the project. And that's nothing but your project management. There are various techniques available to prepare a plan for scheduling and controlling these activities. In this chapter, we will be discussing two of these well-known techniques called as PERT and CPM. Eventually, we'll try to understand what these two concepts are. But before that, one more example here, a few more examples we can consider here for the project management. So, number one, gas pipe connections. So, this project or management you can consider as a networking problem in the broad area of project management. Water pipelines, infrastructure projects, book writing project, transportation problems. 6th, assembly workstation. 7th, computer network, and many more. And if you are looking into all of these examples, you can broadly divide all of these network problems or the project management. So why we are immediately turning up to the concept of network problem under the project management? So project management is involving many of the activities which are interrelated that we are saying. That means suppose the activity 1 I'm having and I'm reaching to the activity 2. So we are connecting this activity to be held before activity 2. For example, suppose I'm initiating your lectures on day 1, right? But prior to that, my lesson plan must be prepared that what content I should teach you on day 1. So this is the prior activity and need to be performed before I conduct your first lecture for the syllabus completion project. Suppose if we have considered syllabus completion of operation research as a project, then the interconnectivity of the activity will proceed, will have to deal in this way. So lesson plan must be prepared before I approach to you for teaching, right? So this is called as a connecting activities. So it's nothing but networking all the activities in the project. So we are going to do that networking analysis, that how the network is being carried out to complete the entire project within time, and the handling of all the activities together is nothing but analysis of our project, analysis of our network, and solving the networking problem. All right. So there are two different network problem. Number one, network routing problem, and network scheduling problem. It is used in the shortest route algorithm, minimal spanning tree, graph theory, and sensor network, etc. So we will be focusing throughout our unit network scheduling problem, not the network routing problem. This is a very different part in project management. So one more example here I have included. I'll just quickly review that and we'll proceed further. One of the example in networking problem I have given as an infrastructure project. What different activities are included in? Number 1, clear the site. Number 2, survey and layout. Number 3, rough grade of that particular site. If excavate the sewer. 5th, excavate the electrical manhole. Next is the install electrical manhole, construct a boundary wall, etc. Right? So many more further activities are included after this 7th step. But all of these activities we are deciding as the core activities of our project, and we are networking it. Means before clearing the site, survey and layout cannot be possible. So this is the essential activity in that project to carry out this next activity, right? So essential activity we are further going to name as a critical activity, because besides completion of the activity I cannot proceed to next activity and further succeeding activities as well. So this is very much important to define the activities in the project and their importance at each of the step, and according to that time management we have to impose in. So slowly and steadily we'll try to understand all of these concepts under the project management under the networking problem. So here are two methods as we discussed earlier. First is the PERT, program evaluation and review technique. So we are trying to evaluate the program and whether it is needed to review certain processes or activities, that also we'll try to look after. It is the project management tool used to schedule, organize and coordinate activities within project. It is basically a method to analyze the task involved in completing a given project. Specifically, a time needed to complete each task and to identify the minimum time needed to complete the project. I'm sorry, this sentence has been repeated. So basically, whatever time constraint we are having, that time constraint is broadly considered in the PERT analysis, program evaluation and review technique. Let me give you one more example at this place. Suppose we have scheduled 9 to 5 all of your lectures in our college. Few subjects are there, few practicals are there, right? And timing be like this. At 9 o'clock first lecture will get started, and at 10 o'clock it will get finished. Similarly, at 10 o'clock second lecture will get started and it will continue till 11 o'clock. And we are having a 10 minutes break over here till 11:10, right? And then onwards our next lecture will get start at 11:10 for suppose. Am I right? So for a certain day, suppose I reach to the college at 9:10, so my schedule or starting time of this particular lecture get extended to 10 minutes. But anyhow, as our timing is from 9 to 5, 5 o'clock I have to finish up strictly. In that case, or if 9 to 5 is a very stringent time that we need to follow, in that case, suppose any particular bit which I need to extend, and I have to give you few examples or problems in that regard, then this 10-minute break I can utilize to cover up my activity of giving you problems or giving you solution of a particular situation, and I will finish up the entire day program or entire day teaching or entire day project sharp at 5 p.m. So readdressing and remanaging the times given to the activity is nothing but the PERT analysis. Alright, I'll come to that part once again while dealing the problems of networking. Let us go to the next part, which is the CPM, critical path method. The critical path method is a step by step project management technique for process planning that defines critical and non-critical tasks with the goal of preventing time frame problems and process bottleneck. So what example I was trying to give you, again I can give you at this place also. So which are the critical activities, which are non-critical activities, and in that case what is our goal of preventing the टाइम फ्रेम प्रॉब्लम, मीन्स जहाँ पर हमारा टाइम कंस्टेंट है वो कैसे कोप अप करना है, दैट वी हैव टू डिसाइड. द CPM critical path method is ideally suited to the project consisting of numerous activities that interact in a complex manner. We can consider here a project where assembly line is included. Suppose I am having different positions, say A, B, C and D, where the certain products are coming at these positions simultaneously, right? But suppose machine A requires 2 days to complete that task, machine B requires 3 days to complete that task, machine C requires again 4 days to complete that task, and machine D requires 1 day to complete this that task. And again the product which are undergoing certain process defined at these 4 locations move to next step, but the number of days are varying. That means suppose I'm having this as further task to be done on all of these projects, then what I have to do is here further I have to look after that all of these members coming at this particular position in a same time frame, but it will not happen. Am I right? So I have to adjust the time frame for the next activity by considering the maximum time required to complete this previous task. So in that way the critical activity I have to identify to proceed further. So in entire project management, handling the time needed to complete each task and handling the critical activity which need to be followed are defined by PERT analysis and CPM analysis. So both of these things we are going to include while defining the problems of network analysis. What is the basic difference between PERT and CPM? Let us try to understand. In PERT analysis, each activity have 3 time estimates. Number 1, optimistic time, number 2, most likely time, and number 3, pessimistic time. A weighted average of all these 3 time frames, optimistic time, most likely time and pessimistic time, gives us the expected completion time of each of the activity, which is calculated using these different times. These time estimates are derived from the probability distribution of completion of time of an activity. Nextly, in PERT analysis, emphasis is given on completion of task rather than activities required to be performed to complete the task. So emphasis is being given on the completion of the task, not on the activities which are required to be performed to complete a task. Thus, PERT is also called as a event-oriented technique. PERT is used for one-time project that involve activities for non-repetitive nature, where completion time are uncertain. Similarly, PERT helps in identifying critical areas in a project so that necessary adjustments can be made to meet scheduled completion date of the project. So this is nothing but our PERT. Now let us try to understand the CPM so that you can understand the difference between two. In CPM, the completion time of each activity is known with a certainty, that too unique. मीन्स हर एक एक्टिविटी को कंप्लीशन टाइम कितना लग रहा है, दैट वी आर ट्राइंग टू आइडेंटिफाई. मीन्स द सर्टनिटी ऑफ दैट of completion of that particular activity can be known, and it might be unique sometimes. CPM analysis explicitly estimate the cost of the project in addition to the completion time. Thus, this technique is suitable for establishing a trade-off for optimum balancing between schedule time and cost of the project. So this analysis is very much important. CPM is used for completing the projects that involve activities of repetitive nature. So repetitive nature activities can be excluded to identify the correct project completion time. Significance of this PERT and CPM analysis, that also needed to understand. A network diagram helps to translate complex projects into a set of simple and logical arranged activities, and therefore helps in a clarity of thoughts and actions. Detailed analysis of a network helps project in charge to peep into the future. Isolates activities that control the project completion and therefore results in expeditious completion of the project. Helps in division of responsibilities and therefore enhance the effective coordination among different departments and agencies involved. Also, this analysis helps in timely allocation of resources into various activities in order to achieve the optimal utilization of the resources. So significance of PERT and CPM we have seen, and now the various aspects included in the project management also we have to check out. In general, project management consists three parts: planning, scheduling and control. So project planning phase will try to understand. In order to understand the sequencing among activities in a project, it is essential to draw a network diagram. The steps involved during this phase are listed below. So project planning phase includes the major term which we are going to learn is the network diagram. So what we have to do while drawing this network drawing? Number one, identify the various activities to be performed in that project. That is, develop a breakdown structure. So किसी भी एक्टिविटी के लिए हमें ये ब्रेकडाउन स्ट्रक्चर आइडेंटिफाई करना होगा कि हम फर्स्ट कौन सी एक्टिविटी इनिशिएट करने वाले हैं, उसके बाद कौन सी एक्टिविटी होने वाली है. सपोज फर्स्ट एक्टिविटी वी आर इनिशिएटिंग, उसके बाद सेकंड एंड थर्ड एक्टिविटीज इनिशिएट हो रही है. सो फर्स्ट एक्टिविटी इज इसेंशियल टू परफॉर्म द नेक्स्ट टू एक्टिविटीज. Again, a certain further activity can be involved after this activity too, which is named as say 4. Then third activity might not be essential to complete the fourth activity. So these connection between this third and fourth activity we may not take. So likewise, the various activities we have to identify which is to be performed in that project and their interrelation also. So that breakdown structure we have to identify. Second, determine the requirement of resources such as main, material, machine, money and many more things which are included in for carrying out the activities listed above. The third part important we have to take into consideration: assign responsibility for each work package. At first step, what activity should be followed? At second step, what activity should be followed? And so on. So that responsibility should be given at each work package. Allocate resources at work package. So whatever resources are available, that we have to distribute at respective locations or at respective work packages. Estimate cost and time at various levels of the project management. Suppose first activity we are initiating at 0th time, 0 minute पर या 0 डे पर हम ये एक्टिविटी अगर स्टार्ट करें तो सेकंड एक्टिविटी कंप्लीट होने के लिए कितने दिन लगेंगे? माइट बी 2 days. थर्ड एक्टिविटी फर्स्ट एक्टिविटी के बाद थर्ड एक्टिविटी कंप्लीट होने के लिए कितने दिन लगेंगे? माइट बी 3 days. देन ऑनवर्ड्स फोर्थ एक्टिविटी के लिए अगर मुझे इनिशिएट करना है तो सेकंड एक्टिविटी कंप्लीट होनी ही चाहिए, एंड फोर्थ एक्टिविटी इनिशिएट होने के लिए मुझे सेकंड डे पर स्टार्ट करना होगा, एंड सपोज इट मे रिक्वायर सर्टन 1 डे टू कंप्लीट. सो फोर्थ एक्टिविटी कंप्लीट होने के लिए 2 + 1 3 डेज लगने वाले हैं, एंड थर्ड एक्टिविटी कंप्लीट होने के लिए 3 डेज लगने वाले हैं. सो नाउ थर्ड एंड फोर्थ एक्टिविटी आर एट सेम level of time frame. So likewise that all activities needed to identify according to the estimation of the cost, according to the estimation of time as well. Next point is develop work performance criteria. Further part we have to take into consideration, establish control channels for the project personnel. Means where we are lagging behind. So at that stage whether we can include the certain another activity to be completed, that also we have to identify. Work performance criteria also we have to perform. So if we have been given a time frame of 7 days, then what will be the performance criteria at each location, at each workspace, that has to be defined. So this is nothing but our 6th point. All right, so that is our planning phase. Scheduling phase. Once all activities have been identified and given unique codes, then project scheduling is taken up. This is the second step of the project management. First is planning, what we discussed that earlier. Second is the scheduling phase. Prepare an estimate of likelihood of the projects to be completed on or before specified time. The states involved in this phase are listed below. Number 1, identify all people who will be responsible for each task. Estimate the expected duration of each activity taking into the consideration of resources required for their execution in their most economic manner. Specify the interrelationship among various activities. Develop a network diagram showing the sequential interrelationship between the various activities. And the next part is, based on these time estimates, calculate the total project duration, identify critical path, calculate floats, carry out resources, smoothing exercise of the critical resources, taking into account to the resource constraints if any. So this point is important while scheduling the path or phase. Next is project control phase. This phase refers to the evaluation of the actual progress against the plan. If significant differences are observed, then remedial or reallocation of the resources measures are adopted in order to update and revise the uncompleted part of the project. ठीक है, सपोज कोई प्रोजेक्ट कैरी करते वक्त मुझे 7th डे पर पता चला कि वर्क स्टेशन 4th इफेक्टिवली वर्क नहीं कर रहा है. व्हाट आई हैव टू डू इज, सपोज मेरा 0th डे से 30 डेज का कोई एक प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा है, एंड एट 7th डे I could get that a certain workstation is not working. So from day 7 till day 30, I have time to reallocate or take the remedial action for the non-working workspace or non-working location, we can say. So that remedial action or reallocation of the sources at that particular position must be needed. So that is nothing but the control phase at our end to address the loopholes or shortcomings of our project management. So these 3 phases are important: planning, scheduling and controlling in a certain project management. So as we discussed a little earlier, that phases of project management can be break down and algorithm can be set up in this way. Work breakdown structure, it's nothing but your planning phase. Network of activity, it includes the planning as well as scheduling of the task. Gantt chart, a chart of different work allocations can be prepared. scheduling and applications of the resources with respect to time as well as cost, implementation of the plan, then onwards, periodic cost reports, so at each location whether the entire activity is completed and proceeding towards the next activity or not, and cost included in that. Suppose any activity is to be performed at within 2 days, but in the process we are understanding that besides 2 days it is taking 3 days, so cost included is getting raised. In that case, periodic cost reports is also mandatory to readdress the different activities or loopholes in the different activities to carry out certain project. Actual task performance data, that is also needed to address. Then deviation from the plan, and if we are having any deviation from the plan, then again rearranging the network of activities and again having this entire task repeated to complete the project effectively within time. Now onwards, now this was the basic part of the network analysis as well as the project management. Now onwards, we'll try to understand the different components included in PERT and CPM analysis and the procedure to identify network diagram, then procedure to identify the program evaluation and review technique. Then we'll try to understand the technique to identify critical path of a given network or given project also. But to identify all of these things, few terminology will be needed, and we have to understand these terminology in a well manner. So PERT and CPM network consist of two major components. These are as follows. Number one, events. An event, it's very important concept. An event in a network diagram always occurs at the beginning and end of the activity. The event has no resources and is presented by a circle. So ऐसा सर्कल करके हम इवेंट को नोट डाउन करेंगे. So you can call this circle as either event or node. So we don't have any activity at this particular point. This is your node. So the event has no resources and is presented by circle. So we don't have resources over here. We are having resources for the activities, not for the events. The events can further classified into the following two categories. Suppose whenever we used to write down the T diagram like this, correct? So in this T diagram, these circles are representing our events according to our PERT and CPM terminology. Alright, so these all circles are nothing but our events, and the lines connecting to these circles are called as the activity. So let us try to understand all that things step by step. Merge event. An event which represents the completion of more than one activity is known as the merge event. Alright, let me give you one example here. Suppose I'm having three activities. First activity, second activity and third activity, and all are merging to one node. So these activities are called as, these events are called as the merge event. Which event? This event. This is called as the merge event. Means at this event your activities, more than one activity, are merging at this point. So this is the merge event. Burst event. So I should direct it as well. So अलग अलग event से, more than one event से activities complete होके इस event पर merge हो रही है. So this is called as a merge event. Burst event, second one. An event that represents the initiation of more than one activity is known as burst event. Again, one example we can consider here. Suppose I am having one event, and from this event different activities are initiated and reaching to different more than one event. So this is called as the burst event. Burst event. So this event is burst event and this event is merge event. Events in network diagram are identified by numbers. Means many of the times this can be numbered as 1, this as 2, means 1 to 2 we are reaching, 1 to 3 we are reaching, 1 to 4 we are reaching, and so on. The numbering of the events in the network diagram must start from left to right or from top to bottom. Alright, means like the way I have drawn this tree diagram, we have drawn that from bottom to top, correct? So either we have to write down our network diagram in this way, how we have completed this tree diagram, or we have to start that from the left to right. Suppose this is your first event, so second event I can put down in this way, this is 2, 2, 3. Then next event I can have as this is 4, this is 5. Further event I can have as from 2 to 4. Then further event I'm having as 4 to 5. Then 5 to 6. Then 5 already I have taken. This is 6, this is 7. Then 5 to 7, and then this is 5 to 8. So we are starting from left side and we are reaching to the right side. So this is the approach, left to right and from top to bottom. Preferably for a network diagram, in this unit we will prefer or will use this approach, left to right, to put down the network diagram. Care should be taken that there is no duplication in the numbering. Like the way here, just I was about to write 5 after 4 and we are already having 5 after this 3. So duplication of numbering should not be there, right? So that way I have to consider the network diagram, event numbering, not the network diagram, event numbering. So another part which is included in the networking is the activity. So first part was event, number 1 I have already given over here. Number 2 is the activity. Now let us try to understand what are the activities. Activities in the network diagram represents an action and consumption of resources, time, money, energy, man hours, etc. required to complete a portion of the project. The activity is represented by an arrow with its head indicating that the direction of the progress in the project. Means अगर ये मेरा फर्स्ट इवेंट है, राइट, एंड ये मेरा सेकंड इवेंट है, तो अगर मैंने इस वे में एरो निकाला तो ये मेरी हो गई एक्टिविटी. एक्टिविटी फ्रॉम node 1 or event 1 to event 2. So activity is being performed with this or is being displayed with the help of this arrow headed towards the part of the project which is being completed. Okay? Activities are identified by the numbers of their starting event and end event. So I'm going to announce this activity as activity from 1 to 2. Event 1 to event 2. So but every time we are not so going to say the activity from event 1 to event 2. We can say that as an activity from 1 to 2. Okay. For example, an arrow in a round bracket I comma j between two events. The tail event is I, first coordinate, right, and the it represents the start of the activity, and the head event is j, second coordinate, that represents the completion of the activity. Means activity is completed from 1 to 2, not from 2 to 1, as arrow is also headed towards 2, and I should announce that as a activity 1 2, or I can write down that as a 1 comma 2 in that way. Am I right? Okay. Nextly, The activities can be further classified into following three categories. As we have also seen the classification of the events in terms of merge event and burst event, activities also can be classified into different categories. And first type is, or category is, predecessor activity, or you can say that as a prior activity. An activity which must be completed before one or more other activities start is known as the predecessor activity. For example, suppose this activity A is being carried out, and then activity B and activity C required to be carried out if and only if this activity A is completed, right? Then this activity A is called as predecessor of activity B as well as activity C, right? Next part, successor activity. An activity which starts immediately after one or more of other activities are, I just read out once again. An activity which starts immediately after one or more of other activities are completed is known as the successor activity. Now in the same diagram, this activity B as well as activity C are called as successor activities of A, right? So predecessor activity means prior activity to any certain other activity, and successor activity means next activity to certain prior activity. So that two terms we are going to use frequently hereafter. Third part is the dummy activity. An activity which does not consume, carefully try to understand this concept, an activity which does not consume either any resource or and time is known as the dummy activity. So I hope by now you can understand that these are our nodes जो हम सर्कल के साथ शो कर रहे हैं, and the lines connecting and heading towards certain circle are known as the activity. Am I right? So suppose certain activity which is not consuming, suppose here we are having 2 days from this one activity to 2 activity, and this is 2 activity I'll consider here, and I'll consider here 3. So activity which is being completed from 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 takes 2 days, and activities which consider connection of the nodes from 2 to 3 requires 3 days. Am I right? But what happens if activity in between this 1 and 2 nodes is connected, or these two are connected? I have shown here with dotted lines. It will not consume either of the 2 days or 3 days. In that case, it is not using any resource, it is not using any time even, but we are going to connect that with the help of certain dotted line. So such activity is called as the dummy activity. Like in transportation problem, we have introduced a dummy row or a dummy column. That is not that dummy row or dummy column are not going to contribute in cost in minimization of the or optimization of the cost. In similar way, here dummy activity will not utilize any of the time or any of the resource. It is added. Then why we have to consider this? It is added in the network only to establish the given precedence relationship among activities of the project. So it should be used if and only if it is required. Everywhere the dummy activity we are not going to use. We are going to use this dummy activity in unavoidable situations. Alright? Okay. So let us try to understand few more concepts under the networking analysis. Following two types of approaches are commonly used in networking model to show precedence requirement of the activities in the project. Now that both of the approaches are called as the activity on node AON network and activity on arrow AOA network. So this is very important for us to understand. In this type of precedence network, each node represents a specific task, while the arc represents the ordering between the tasks. AON network diagram places the activities within the nodes, means events, and arrows are used to indicate the sequencing requirement. Means this will be followed in this way: 1 to 2. So arrowhead suggests you that this is your first activity. 2 to 3, second activity. This is fourth activity, third activity, fourth activity, and so on. So our activity is mentioned at the node. So for first activity to second activity is being carried out, then second activity to third activity is being carried out. So arrows indicates only the sequencing requirement कि ये सेकंड एक्टिविटी कैरी करने के लिए फर्स्ट एक्टिविटी कौन सी है, ये है. ये एक्टिविटी कैरी करने के लिए फर्स्ट एक्टिविटी कौन सी है, सेकंड है, एंड सो ऑन. So this is called as an activity on node, right? And then second part है activity on arrow AOA network. In this type of precedence network, at each end of the activity arrow is a node. So if I am noting down activity in this way, so this is my activity and it is connecting the node 1 and node 2. So activity is mentioned over here on arrow, not at the nodes. So suppose generally all capital letters are noted for the activity and numbers are noted for the nodes or events. In that case, suppose when I am writing down, this is A, then this is B, C, D. So this is your AON network. Activity is mentioned in the arrow. So A activity must be completed, then only we can initiate activity B as well as C. Similarly, suppose I'm using that AOA network, what will happen? 1 to 2, this is your activity A, am I right? Then activity B is being noted in this way, activity C is being noted in this way on arrow, then this is activity D is being noted furtherly in this way. So see this diagram, ये diagram भी देखो and ये diagram भी देखो. So both of the diagrams are not much varied. They are giving you the same networking and networking of the activities. I repeat once again. First is your AON network. Second diagram is your AOA network. Am I right? And the activities included in both of the networks are not very different. They are similar. Only the approach to note down that activities we are differing. So first part is nothing but the activity mentioned in arrow in nodes or at events, and in second diagram activities are mentioned on rows, on arrows, I'm sorry, not rows, I'm on arrows. So this is the difference between the AON and AOA network. So preferably this second network we are going to follow while solving problems of networking analysis. Okay. Many important computer programs are based on AOA network. So importance of AOA network is given over here. AOA diagram can be superimposed on a time scale with the arrows drawn the correct length to indicate the time requirement, and AOA diagram give a better sense of the flow of time throughout a subject. So because of these advantages, many of the times AOA network is preferred in networking analysis. Alright, then come to the next part, looping and dangling. Looping and dangling, these are two important concepts in a networking analysis, and these are considered as the faults in the network. Therefore these faults must be avoided. Now what are this looping and dangling? Let us try to understand. A case of endless loop in a network will not give you facility to proceed further. So such network diagram can be called as the looping. Let us try to understand this in terms of figure. Suppose यहाँ से हमारे पास कोई activities आ रही है and we are reaching to this. So this I'm so sorry. From this node 1 to node 2, activity A is being performed, right? But after activity A, we can reach to the activity B, right? From this node, and then we can reach to activity C once again through this direction. So direction I am following. But in that case, I am infinitely included in this loop. After A to B, B to C, again to A, again to B, again to C, and so on. So this is your loop, and such looping we have to avoid, because once we have loop, I don't have any way out to take the project to the further level. So अगर मैं B activity से directly C पर आ रही हूँ, I am not reaching to this particular activity or this activity. Again, whenever I am coming to this activity A from this side or from this side, right, I am again including into the looping structure. Am I right? So looping structure we are going to avoid. Second, a case of disconnect activity before the completion of all activities is known as the dangling, as shown in the following figure. Means at a particular step, the disconnection of activity we may observe compared to the remaining activities. Like suppose we are starting with this is our activity A is to be performed, then after that activity is B to be performed and C to be performed after completion of A activity. Then B will be proceeded further towards the next activity, which might be D over here, right? But after completion of activity C, we don't have any arrows mentioned here. Am I right? So this activity C is called as the dangling. It is a disconnected activity, we may say, which is again a fault in our networking diagram. So that should not be there. But if it is there, in that case, how the project management can be done, that also will be seen. Then come to the errors and dummies in the network. So faults हमने देखे हैं, that should not be there in network analysis. But in network analysis, some errors and dummy activities can be included. The following are two cases in which the use of dummy activity may help in drawing the network correctly as per the various rules. Number 1, when two or more parallel activities in a project have same head and tail events. Means suppose I am having ith event and jth event. In both of this event, during this both of nodes, I'm sorry, I'm just confusing between the nodes and events. Between these two nodes I and j, Suppose I'm having parallel activities like this. Suppose node 1 we have considered, node 2 we have considered, and we are having two activities in between. B is being carried out from 1 to 2 and C is being carried out from 1 to 2 once again. So these are called as the parallel activities. So we'll try to avoid that. In case of the parallel activities, which is error actually, this error can be simplified or can be modified by using the dummy activities. So from A to B, I'm using the same similar row from reaching one node to second node, right? Or one node to third node. And C activity I'm going to write down in this way. From first node to second node, C activity is being carried out, and from second node to third node I am drawing a dotted line which is called as a dummy activity. Suppose A is required 1 day to complete, B is requiring 2 days to complete, and C is requiring 3 days to complete. In that case, D activity will be a common activity which is being started after completion of this B activity and after completion of C activity. But this B and C activities cannot come together between these two events. So in that case, dummy activity we can plan, and it can be shown with this dotted line. Similarly here, the same structure can be rearranged in this way. Activity A is being completed at this node, B is being started, it is reaching to 2, right? C is being started, it is reaching to 3, and B and D can be connected through this dummy line. ये कैसे यूज करनी है प्रॉब्लम में, I'll definitely tell you, but just try to understand the concept at this level. Second part, when two chains of the activities have a common event yet are completely or partially independent of each other. A dummy which is used in such a case to establish a proper logical relationship is also known as logic dummy activity. So whenever required, dummy activity you can include it, but unnecessarily dummy activities should not be included in the project management. So we have to take care of that particular part. Alright, so with this backdrop about the different terminology included in PERT and CPM analysis, we can now go for the problem simplification. But I think this much part is very sufficient to understand the basics of PERT and CPM, and problem practice we can include in our next session. We will stop over here and we'll again get back to this problem in next session. Thank you everyone.